Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, what's going on, sir?
I've got baseball fever, man. After watching the 3 games at LC, I'm rip roaring ready to go. But for you, sir, though, how's spring break going? Have you played catch up yet?
I'm working on it. Still working on it.
It's a never ending story, is it?
No, absolutely. It is spring break for LC and for Lewiston, and Addie has an ear infection, so what a great way for her to spend her spring break is just in bed for the most part. She did draw me a cute little Mario with a block. It's tough to see, but she did a great job with that. She's up resting right now. I'm sitting for the first time in a while for one of these shows because I just don't feel like standing. We did bad brackets last night, and I was like, I'm just gonna chill for this show. We're gonna have a lot of fun. No guests again this week. A lot of national news that we are going to get into. We do have the AL East that we're going to break down as the final division for Major League Baseball. And then in the second hour, we'll give you all of our playoff and award winners. We'll tell you the World Series pick that surely will be incorrect, as it always is. We'll have a lot of fun with that. Obviously, the NCAA tournament's going on right now. Both the men and the women are in the Sweet 16, so we'll see how our brackets are holding up, if we want to change anything, if we've watched more than we expected to watch. Lots going on there. We will touch on the Shohei Ohtani stuff. There's just so much unknown about that, and the online universe is just blowing up on either side of the coin. We'll talk about that. Obviously, the NFL meetings have gone down, some new rules to look at, some interesting schedule decisions to look at. We got a lot to talk about today, and of course, a sports related draft, as we always do on the non-football episodes of the R&R Sports Report. But we're going to start local. We're going to have some fun with that, as talk about it all the time with, I think last week we got in a really good discussion of players leaving and, not being committed to their team. And a big reason why I still defend the players is because the coaches do the same thing. Get the coaches carousel like instantly. It feels like jobs have been discussed and set while they're still coaching for their other team. And the moment they get knocked out of the tournament, they find a new job. And that's exactly what happened with Utah State's Danny Sprinkle. He's headed out off to the University of Washington from Utah State. And with that news, Case Wynot, who we have talked about for years on the show, one of the best, if not the best, boys basketball player in the state of Idaho, who was committed to Utah State, is no longer committed to Utah State. Just real quick, your thoughts on this whole news before we really start breaking some of that down.
Well, what's crazy is, how much like you said, that things change in just a drop of a hat. Not even just Utah State, Michigan, with Dusty May, really quick sign in there. But yeah, within just a day or two after, Case Wynot was introduced as the Washington, the Idaho Gatorade Player of the Year. Couple days later, now all of a sudden, Danny Sprinkle gone. And yes, Denny, we'll talk about that here in just a second, as lots of things going on with Washington State too. But yeah, that was the very first thing. As soon as I heard that, I started sneaking around, doing a little digging, messaged a few folks, even messaged Coach Zach Eastman, talked to him for a couple minutes last night. And even a post with him going public this morning was, it's time for them to get back to work. But it's like you and I talked there briefly, messaging back and forth last night, that he had many offers. So I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be an issue. I do think that he will kind of wait and have a conversation with Coach Sprinkle once he gets over to Seattle and see what is going to happen there. But you know, I don't see him making a decision. I maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see him making a decision within the next week or so, until after those conversations happen.
Yeah, and that is one interesting thing. It's dependent on, for Case Wynot, is how much was he headed off to Utah State because of the coach, because of the
Mhm.
culture that he saw down there, because of the school itself. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that he was looking at going in. There is a chance that he may move over and go play for Washington if Danny Sprinkle would like him to go over there. That'll take some time, and obviously
Mhm.
Case will have plenty of time to do that before the start of the next season. But now full options are on the table for Case. Hopefully
Yep.
things work out for him. Of course, this happens all the time where you get recruited from a coach, it's fantastic, and then they move on to greener pastures, and then you're just kind of stuck. Luckily now, that is one of the positives for college athletics, is you're allowed to bounce as well if things change. Obviously, players overuse the transfer portal, but this is one of the positives there. As Denny said, the WSU AD is leaving. He's headed over to Washington. I saw a lot of things, and Robert, you sent me one as well, where people were saying he's betraying Washington State. Nope, the Pac-12 betrayed Washington State, and
Mhm.
I don't blame him for going, you know what, I'm at a school right now without a conference. We're gonna go play basketball with the West Coast Conference, but they don't do football, so we still don't know what we're fully doing there. So I'm gonna go to the school that just got thrown into a conference that's getting millions and millions and millions of dollars from television to play football. So I absolutely don't blame him for moving at all.
Yeah, Pat Chun, he's done a lot for WSU, but you're 100% right. It's just there's so much going on and not going on, or the unknown of what's going to happen with these two teams. That why wouldn't you go to a spot that is going to be a thing? So here's the thing. Thank you, Jeremiah. I am so glad you're here. Case Why Not's dad, Jeremiah Why Not. Thank you for joining us. We just talked about Case, and we really want to, we supported him over the last few years of what he's going to go. I hope, we hear lots of things. Yeah, what works out best for him.
Mhm.
For a kid that averaged almost 37 points a game in his career, to fifth, or this year fifth in the country. So thank you for dropping in and letting us know. But lots
Mhm.
of things happen in there. But I don't have anything bad to say about Chun. I think him moving to that bigger conference just going to keep that almost Pac-12 feeling going into the rest of that conference where they're at in the unstable part of what is happening with this Pac-12, even with the finally getting some of the monies figured out about who's getting what money and all that
Mhm.
coming down. It feels like WSU and Oregon State had a lot to prove this year. They did prove it. They did make some big strides in both football and basketball this year. But now this is over. Where does it move, and what happens now is now even a bigger mystery, whether or not you're playing in the WCC.
Yeah, I mean, sure, they made big strides and they had good years, but it doesn't mean anything with the way that college landscape has decided that their future is now in doubt as far as being a Power Five conference. And WSU, especially when I mean, we've talked about it when this news was starting to go down, never really felt like a Power Five conference school. Like Pullman's not a big place. When they had college game day there, it was like the population of Pullman doubled. And it happens every time they the school year starts. The moment the school year ends and everyone goes back home, the population dies, and then that city just that town tries to hang on for the 3 months that the students
Yeah.
aren't there.
Mhm.
So it has never really felt like it was at that same level of as a Washington or an Oregon or a USC, even though they were in the same conference. And now that they are no longer the little brother to those schools, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go. The same thing kind of happened with Idaho, as the WAC kind of had its shift and moved there for a while, and Idaho tried to bounce around and then ended up going back to the FCS, and became the big brother of the Big Sky there for a little bit, or they attempted to. But yeah, so a lot is up in the air for Washington State. They're going to have a lot of different things, new AD, new basketball coach as well, and it's just one of those weird situations with the way college football especially continues to chase the television money, that these schools are in so much flux. It's wild every year that we have to talk about this now.
Mm-hmm. And big thing for Kyle Smith, he turned a program around. Yeah, got Coach of the Year this year, but he got his start down in San Francisco in that area, and so it's almost like he's going home, and to have a dream job of going into Stanford, where there is so much more happening around him. Kyle's just bettering himself, and to go back, as he was calling, go back home. It was time for him to go back into that area for what he's calling his dream job.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, we will keep you updated on what WSU does with their new basketball coach or their athletic director, of course, with Case's dad as well. We will keep you updated on what Why Not decides to do now that things have kind of changed with Utah State. Obviously, he'll land on his feet. He's a good kid, fantastic basketball player, and he's going to get things done. Also saw this news on X, Twitter. I'm still not used to it. From a big situation with another small school in our area. Somebody that, she's played basketball here for the last couple of years as far as the high school level. And I've just never been able to watch her because Colfax doesn't come down for the Avista, and I don't work for the Tribune anymore. But Bryn McGahee, who is a fantastic player for the Colfax Bulldogs, went to Iowa this past weekend, or I guess wherever Iowa was playing at. I forget where the Hawkeyes were playing their first two rounds at for the NCAA tournament, but she met with Iowa during that second round match where Clayton Clark set the all-time single season scoring record. And it is one of a ridiculous list of schools that Bryn is checking out and looking at. She on her Twitter last month posted her top 12 schools, and it is a who's who, especially for women's college basketball. And again, it's a lot like Case Why Not from Lapwai. This is Colfax. Colfax is not a big place. Their school is not very big, but Bryn has just been so good on the court. 5-star recruit on ESPN. I want to say she was 23rd. She was top 25, but I'm trying to remember the exact number I saw her at. But her top 12 schools read like this: UConn, Tennessee, UCLA, Iowa, of course, who she just visited, Duke, Florida, North Carolina, Indiana, and then Utah, Washington, USC, and Oregon. A lot like Case. Wherever Bryn decides to go, she's going to land on her feet and kick a lot of butt in the collegiate level. But have you been able to see Bryn as somebody that works with Clarkston? Have they played the Phantoms, or what do you know about Bryn?
I have seen Bryn a couple of times. Didn't get to see her this last year as a senior this year, but she is quite dominant in the paint. McGoy, she just loves to have the ball in her hand, and she wants it all of the time. And so I think she will land on her feet. I think she wants to stay a little bit closer to home, but that with all that changing, Pac-12 is now changed. Who wouldn't want to go and play at Iowa or one of those other big schools? So hers is a little bit more not 100% what she's got and what she's going to think about where she's going to end up. So
here's my question, because I thought she was a senior too. And again, I haven't ever seen her play. I just read the stories throughout the Tribune and see some of her highlights and stuff as her career goes on. But ESPN has her listed as a class of 2025, which would suggest she's not a senior, even though everywhere I've seen, I thought she was a senior. So
I'm
if anybody
almost
out there, Denny or Jeremiah, or anybody that's closer with some of the high school basketball stuff, I'm more centrally located with Lewiston and kind of knowing what's going on with them. That would be fantastic. But either way, Bryn's going to go off to a very big school and hopefully have a fantastic collegiate career once she reaches that time, whether it's this upcoming fall or the year after. I'm not 1,000% sure. Let's move on to the college side of things. And LC, as we talked about last week, had made it to the round of 16 in the NAIA Men's Basketball Championship Tournament. I listened to this entire game. It happened perfectly where I was able to get off of work. I even listened while we were doing the bowling league on Thursday night. And LC does fall in that round of 16 game to Evangel, or however you say that. I've tried to say that name so many times this last week, and I can never say it. They're from Missouri. The Warriors lost that one 77-74, but they came back from 22 points down with just under 15 minutes to go in this game. It just looked like things were lost for LC, and then they go on a 32-10 run over the next 10 minutes. They tied the game at 66. They just come up a bit short. The thing that really stood out to me, and I thought Brian Danner did a fantastic job of picturing or painting the picture of what was going on in those games. But LC attempted 36 3-pointers in that contest. And anybody that's watched the Warriors, that's not their game. They're not a 3-point shooting team. And it showed they only hit 9 of them. And the big thing was they shot 22 3-pointers in the first half and only hit 3. So kind of got away from their game plan, and it really kind of bit them in the butt a little bit, especially there in the first half.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to the game. I just tried to stay on top of your post and his and from any information from Danner. But for this team to show what they did, unbelievable. And John Lustig is going to be a big star. Alton Hamilton, I'm impressed with those guys, what little bit I've got to watch out of them, and the future still looks pretty good. Now, could we convince Sam to stick around? I know he was a senior, graduating senior. Not sure about his grad class, if that is an option for him.
Yeah, he has one extra. He's done that last little group that still has a COVID year if they so choose to use it.
Yeah, so a lot depends. I mean, this team can make another really good, decent run next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as you said, 3 seniors leave. Sam still with an option if he so chooses. Championship games are going on right now on both the men's and women's tournaments. We'll update you in the second hour once those games kind of come to an end. But you're going to have a new champion in both tournaments, as Freed Hardeman was a 1 seed in their quadrant. They are taking on the number 1 seed in a different quadrant, Langston of Oklahoma. Langston actually defeated the defending champ, College of Idaho, in the semifinals last night, 58-52. Both teams not only are trying to win their first NAIA championship, they both made it to the Fab Four for the first time ever. So congratulations to them.
So with that being said, as we were sitting in the press box, I know you were a couple of boxes over, but listening to Alicia on Saturday, she did say that was the first time that all number 1 seeds had made the final 4 since like 1972. So crazy that they got all the seedings right, and here you go. Here's all the number 1 seedings making.
Yeah, and I also remember it's a tougher tournament now that the last 3 years they've gone to 64 teams instead of the 48 or whatever it was before that. So even tougher for these number 1 seeds to move on. On the women's side, Dornt from Iowa was the number 1 seed. They take on the number 2 seed in that quadrant, Providence from Montana. Providence won the Battle of Montana and their Fab Four matchup against Carroll. They won that one 58-53. Both of those 2 teams looking for their first ever NAIA championship. So a first-time winner will be crowned in both tournaments tonight. And what I love about the NAIA tournament is it just happens. It just gets done. We don't have this week in between. We get 2 rounds and you have 5 days off. You come in, you play your 2 games in 2 days, you get a couple days to travel out to Kansas City or Sioux Falls, whichever tournament you're a part of, and then you just play. Like you have a day off in there because there's so many games for the round of 16. But from then, semifinals were yesterday, and now you have your championship today. The only reason why it goes an extra day is because they don't play on Sunday. But just that's what I like. It's just you go there, you get your tournament done. It's the NCAA tournament. While I love it, I mean, and I understand it too because you want to get it's more of a ratings grab. But I mean, why does this take 3 weeks to do the exact same tournament that took 2?
Exactly. Sometimes I wonder if the NAIA's got things figured out better than the NCAA.
Oh, well, again, the NCAA is all about the money. All about the money. That is for sure. You were at baseball a bit more than me. You were there for 3 of the 4 games. I was just there for Saturday, but LC was able to pull off the sweep against Eastern Oregon. They are now 17-7 on the year. They remain undefeated at home. The week was very up in the air as far as weather and what they were going to be able to do. It was supposed to be 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. And then halfway through the week, they went, all right, let's move 2 games to Friday because that seems like it's the easiest day to move to. We'll do 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And then they went, nah, Sunday just looks too bad. So then they made it a double header on Saturday. And then the moment we started play on Saturday, like the second pitch of the game, it downpoured for about 10, 15 minutes. We were totally fine after that. But your first real look at the Warriors, sir, what do you think of the baseball team?
They looked very, very good. And this is the team that we have played against. Eastern Oregon and has struggled a little bit, but I got to finally see some of the new faces there at LC. With Cabrera being in there, he struggled a little bit on Friday night, but the name that's going to pop out for me, and we had talked about it a ton in the booth of what that kid did on Saturday, and that's Carter Booth and what he was able to do. I think he only had one at bat where he did not make it. He had 1 walk that he was there. Not getting on base. He just generated so much stuff going on. So excited. Nick Siemens did great. Was that you?
Yeah, I'm pulling up these NAIA games real quick.
But yeah, I'm just highly impressed with this ball club. I got to watch this team. A little rough on Pooh there towards the end of the second game. Struggled a couple of errors. I believe there was only a total of in the game. I remember 4 total errors, I think, in 3 games that I saw for the Warriors. So
it felt like more. I feel like the first game on Saturday was a lot more than that. And I felt like they had 4 themselves, but a lot to clean up. It's still for LC, still a couple months before tournament time and really getting into it. But obviously the Warriors not playing at the level that they would hope for. But we will see how things go. They travel to Oregon Tech this weekend to take on the Owls, and then they will return against the College of Idaho next weekend. And then the weekend after that's really fun because LSU Shreveport is coming into town for a 4-game set, maybe a preview of a possible matchup in the NAIA World Series. We'll see if both teams are able to make that tournament this year. But very cool that LC is able to get somebody to come all the way up here during the regular season. It's always been an issue for them. They go out to whether it's Florida or Arizona to start the year, a California trip maybe, and play some of these teams. But it was like from mid-February on, it's just Cascade Conference teams. So it's always tough for them to really test themselves. They get that with LSU, Shreveport, and the Pioneers in about 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, I'm bummed about that because that's the weekend that I am out of town working in Spokane, so I don't get to see that team. But if we stick around in the CCC for a second, College of Idaho is a very good team, and the Warriors are going to have their hands full with this team, and I think they've got to stay that positive. pitching there in that last game was a little suspect. I think it's going to get better. I think they just need to. They got a couple of kids back. I forget the name of the boy that pitched in that last game that he had finally got done being hurt. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm looking really quick. Landon Webb. He had not played yet. Was dealing with some foot issues. He ended up giving up 2 hits in just the 1 inning that he pitched. But Dallas McGill looked really good too. So it's just you said it. It's all about the timing and these guys getting in a rhythm and staying right with it. So.
Yeah. Update for you in the NAIA Women's Championship game. Providence leads Dordt 40-38 after the end of the third quarter. They just now finished the third quarter there. About 9:20 to go in the men's championship game. Langston is leading Fried Hardeman right now 50-45. So both championship games are going to come down to the wire, it seems. Let's move on to high school sports. And Lewiston traveled down and played in a couple of games down in southern Idaho. They were supposed to play in 4. They were only able to get 2 games in as weather affected the games on Saturday. And it has basically been the same story for the Bengals as it has been early on in the year. Pitching is really good. But the offense is non-existent. And then when the pitching goes bad, they just have 0 chance to stay in a game. They were able to beat Centennial 2-1 in the first game. They scored 2 runs on 2 hits. That's what Lewiston's offense looked like. Zam Bambasino was fantastic through a complete game, gave up 1 unearned run and only allowed 3 hits. And then Carson Kolb, who was fantastic against the Bantams at Harris Field a couple of weeks ago, really struggled against Mountain View, and the offense could get nothing going. And LC, with 5 errors in that game, lost it 10-0. Lewiston softball really struggling to start their year. They are 0-4 now. They also went down to Southern Idaho, lost to Pocatello 12-1. And then Homedale 15-6. Both teams will take on Moscow next week. The softball team is at home at Airport Park. Baseball is starting their ridiculous road trip as they will go up to Moscow to take on the Bears.
Yeah, I talked to Kevin Driscoll the other day, and he's like, we don't have a game at home in forever.
Yeah.
And that's what he kind of made it sound like.
Mid-April.
Yeah.
Is the next time Lewiston has home games, and they have 2 doubleheaders, and then the season's done. They just barely play at home this year.
Yeah, it is crazy. As far as Clarkson, we talked about it last week. I was excited. I was hoping to make the trip up to Orofino to go watch that game. I kind of wish I would have, because Clarkson and the Orofino Maniacs went to extra innings. First 10-inning game that I have heard of or seen in a high school level in a long time. And the Bantams come up on the short end of that one, 3-2. But Trace Green throws a complete game, 9 strikeout game for the loss. Trace has been that workhorse for Bruce Benching and that Clarkson in that group. Yeah, Denny, I did see that just a couple minutes ago. I pulled up her Twitter account. So yeah, she is a junior. So the Bantams.
By the way, Mister, I haven't seen a 10-inning game in baseball forever. I appreciate you never listening to my broadcast when I do Lewiston Bengal baseball. Thank you so much. Third place game in the 2022 season. Lewiston beat Bora 5-4 in 10 innings. Jeez.
That's when you were camping out down south, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was only a walk-off home run by Cruz Hepburn. I just couldn't remember what inning. I knew it was extra innings. I couldn't remember if they got all the way to the 10th. They did.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
So it was just crazy to see Trace going 10, 9+ and coming up with a loss in that one. So they are at home tomorrow at Adams Field. So if you want to catch some baseball, they are taking on the Knights there 4 o'clock. And then they've got a doubleheader on Saturday in Pullman as they take on the Greyhounds this weekend. And them right now, they are struggling. They are now 0-7 on the season. Just haven't got a winning game yet under the belts. But you look at the other team, and that's the girls softball team. New head coach with Miss Wilson. She is doing quite well with that one. They come away with big sweep of Kellogg this last Wednesday, 15-0 and 14-4. Combined 29 hits in those two games for the Bantams. In game one, Emma McMangill has a complete game, 5-inning no-hitter in that game. And then in game number 2, Ryan Combs goes 4 for 4 with 2 doubles and a triple. And then a friend of mine, her family, Kizzy Line, her brother Hayden Line plays on the baseball team. Kizzy is a sophomore this year, comes away with a big 2-run home run in that game. So they did play tonight against East Valley, and so they did get the win. I did get a text just before we went on air. Clarkson ended up winning that one 7-0. No stats on that one yet, but again, the Bantams then travel up to Pullman to take on the Greyhounds on Saturday before they go into spring break. So if you want to catch out some games, make sure you go and see them.
There you go. And now with the confirmation of McGahee being a junior, Mike Tacko, if you're listening, or if somebody gets the message to Mike, can we get Colfax in the Avista tournament next year? I want to watch this kid and see what she's got. It'd be great. Been able to watch Case several times throughout his high school career. I got to see her at least once before she graduates and moves on to one of these big schools.
Brian has messaged me to remind you it is McGoy is the
McGoy.
way it's how it's pronounced.
Don't remind me. I didn't know what it was. McGoy.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know. Because again, I've only read it. I have never heard it anywhere. That's for sure. So thank you.
That's the first picture.
I apologize to Bryn. That's why I said Bryn more than her last name.
That's that picture you sent was the first picture or thing I have seen about her since about midway through the season. Because at least my attention turns to 2A, and so we step away from 1B for a little bit. Yeah. So
for sure. All right, let's get into Major League Baseball talk. And before we break down the AL East and Denny goes off about his Baltimore Orioles in the comments, because we all know that's coming, we do have to talk about Shohei Ohtani and the crazy news that continues to break, and we still wait for what exactly is going on. I still don't know much of what's going on. Basically, the report came out that a bookie, in California, was raided by police or whatever happened there, and they found reports of him taking money from the account of Shohei Ohtani, which obviously threw up lots of red flags. And the first response from Ohtani's camp was, his interpreter, his good buddy, has been having some gambling issues, and Ohtani was just being a good friend and paying it off. And then the day later, they went, that's not the best message to send, because even with that message saying Ohtani is not gambling, he paid off a gambling debt. So Ohtani was robbed. That's our new defense. I still don't know what I believe, and obviously, hopefully, the truth will come out, and we will learn throughout whatever evidence that gets found throughout all these investigations. But your initial thoughts on what's going on with Shohei Ohtani?
They said supposedly MLB has seen it. There's wire transfers with his name on it. I'm if he's helping him out, but it kind of makes it sound after his interview and his press conference yesterday that he had no idea. I'm sorry, if you have $4.5 million that is out of your account. Listen, my wife lets me know if I've spent $100, and she lets me know if I've spent $20. So I know that there's people that pay attention to this stuff. And so you're talking with a guy that's making millions and millions of dollars in not the deferred money from the Dodgers, but in all of the other things, you would think you would be on top of your spending and your ins and outs. And for $4.5 million in transfers to just,
See, it's the amount to me that really catches my eye, because if it was just the interpreter doing this behind his back and using his money, what Booker is going to go, you're just an interpreter. How do you have all this money, but you're good for it, for all of these losses, for him to pay this off? They had a good talk about it on the Rich Eisen show, and one point that they really brought up that I agree with is it's not like he lost every single bet. So how much money has he actually put into this thing? Because obviously, I mean, for anybody that gambles on any level, everything's going to go up and down. And you just, I mean, you ride the highs and you try to hang out for the lows. It's not all one direction ever, in anything. So how much is he really in? And I agree with you. It's like, yes, Ohtani has a ridiculous amount of money through all of his endorsements and stuff. And he does trust the people around him to take care of that. But so if it's not just the interpreter, the bank has to clear it. The bank has to understand where that money is going, because it's coming out of his bank. And obviously, if it's a big number, they're going to double check. His accountant, what was going on with his accountant through all of this, then it's wild. This whole thing is rough and interesting, and we may never know the full truth about it, but the truth itself could be a long time. John Boy on his podcast had a great line where his interpreter is either the worst friend of all time and stole all this money and hid it from him and gambled with his account, which could get him in big trouble with Major League Baseball, or he's the greatest friend of all time because he's taking the fall for what Ohtani was actually doing, and now he's going to get in trouble for stealing. And yeah,
so Denny brings this up. It's funny is back in he said it. He wished he'd gotten off scot free as Pete Rose. I don't know if you saw that little thing yesterday too about that, but I just don't understand.
Was that actually said by him or somebody joking? Because there's a lot of jokes.
No, like there was a picture. I don't remember who he was with, but he was in a clip. I saw it yesterday afternoon, but. For me, which raises one more question, and this is because, you work in an establishment that requires people to gamble. Yeah. I used to work there. My wife worked at the casino years ago where we rely on people to gamble. And now we get these places now that are sponsored by, or these things are sponsored by DraftKings or sponsored by MGM Grand.
I hate this argument, but go ahead.
But I'm saying, I mean, where do we start drawing the line and switching to the point of it's okay if you can go and gamble a little bit here on a sport? And
no, again, it is not. If you're at Major League Baseball, you are not allowed to gamble. That is not the rule. The NFL does not have that rule. They don't want you to do it in their building, which is where some players get in trouble. But the big issue is if you're betting on your sport.
Right.
And this is where I get so frustrated with this argument that once again is going out of, oh, look, this is sponsored by DraftKings and we're moving on to this betting places things. And here are the numbers. It's like, because that is what's popular right now. Betting is very, very popular. However, it doesn't mean you can break the overall rule of betting on your sport. Like you said, I work at a casino as one of my jobs.
Yep.
It doesn't mean I can do insider trading in my casino. I cannot break the Washington State gambling rules just to gamble. I have my own rules and regulations that I have to abide by. And just because gambling is becoming more and more mainstream and more okay, I have to follow the rules. So this is all saying that if it is Ohtani that was using his interpreter to get bets out there, he has to get banned. That's the rule. That's the absolute rule. I'm not saying he did. I have no idea which direction the truth actually is. But for people to go out there and go, well, Major League Baseball was asking for this because they're sponsored by DraftKings. It doesn't matter where you get your money from. It doesn't change things. It doesn't change your product based on what you're sponsored by. It used to be sponsored by cigarettes. You weren't seeing players out there in right field smoking. All right? Like, just let's chill just for a little bit. All right? Like, I'm sure Viagra sponsored Major League Baseball at some time. People were not walking around the dugouts popping those blue pills.
I would sure hope not.
Maybe Miguel Cabrera because he was 45 years old, but
well, listen, you're right. Winston Cup, how many of those guys out there smoking as they're driving around in NASCAR? But so I'm going to ask you.
Actually, that's a great example. Real quick, NASCAR is still sponsored by alcohol. They're not allowed to drive drunk. It's like if Kyle Busch got pulled over with a DUI, Twitter's not going to go, oh, yeah, but Budweiser is a main sponsor of such and such, and they were just asking for it. It's a good point. Thank you, Robert.
And so I'm going to ask you this question, and we still don't know where this money is coming from or where it went.
Well,
and the receipts,
coming from Ohtani, that's the deal.
But where the receipts went, what he gambled on, how much of a black cloud do you think this puts over the Dodgers for the season? And how do you think it affects even the Los Angeles Angels and his old team?
No, I don't think it affects the Angels at all. It affects the Dodgers greatly. And that's where the big question lies. If this was not Shohei Ohtani, if this was just name an average Joe baseball player, Julio Rodriguez, let's just go with the Mariners. Julio Rodriguez is a good star, but he's not at the level of Shohei Ohtani. Julio Rodriguez would not be allowed to play this weekend. Yes, innocent until proven guilty. That's the way of the land here, and I totally agree with it. And I don't want to shun Shohei Ohtani just for these allegations. But Trevor Bauer still has not been able to step foot on a Major League Baseball field. He has been acquitted of all charges. He has given out facts that he was set up by the woman that alleged that he had the sexual misconduct with. He went out, he battled for himself, he cleared his name. He's still unable to find a baseball team. And he was instantly and the whole big thing with Trevor Bauer, and yes, I know obviously gambling and sexual assault, two completely different things, but rules are rules, right? And for Trevor Bauer, it was, while we investigate this, you're going to be on the exclusive list or whatever Major League Baseball calls on that. Why isn't Ohtani thrown on that until they clear his name?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Because I mean, if you, like you said, if you throw out
Denny Grubb just sent me a baseball card of Dick Allen for the White Sox juggling baseballs in the dugout while smoking a cigarette. Well done, Denny. That was great. That was fantastic.
I got it too. That's just funny. But really, I mean, I think you hit it. If it's any other person that is not in mainstream or big market, they'd be sitting, whether it's just a weekend or if it's even, as long as this is going to be around, this could be around for a while. Discussion. Could we be seeing this through the month of May, even to All-Star break?
Oh, I mean, this could take the whole year. I mean, let's be fair here. I mean, who knows what they're going to uncover, how long it's going to take them for it to uncover, and how much they're going to sweep under the rug if they do find it, and it takes away their big ticket to Japan. There's a lot to this. Again, I sound like a conspiracy theorist guy. I hope this is all his interpreter stole his money, and Ohtani really had no clue. And the first message that came out saying that Ohtani was just being a good friend was just taken from the interpreter himself, and he was trying to cover his own tracks. And then the rest of the team went, oh, wait, hold on. What is actually happening here? I hope that's the case. And, Ohtani is 100% innocent in this, and we can just go back to him being a fantastic baseball player. But it is just interesting to me that because he is such a big star, while the investigation goes on, he is scot-free to play until they figure it out. And in all other circumstances and everything else, right, players go poof. And so that's interesting to me. We'll see where things all land for Ohtani. Again, we'll have no idea probably for a while where everything will go. It'll be the Pete Rose jokes will be around, and some of them will be funny. Some of them will just drive me nuts. But hopefully what Ohtani is saying is 100% accurate, and he is a victim here. And, once we get started with Major League Baseball in 2 days, we can just kind of focus on baseball. But doesn't seem like that's going to be the case for a little bit. But let's ourselves focus on what happens on the diamond, and let's preview the AL East, the best division in baseball. Denny would agree. Robert might not agree, but that's okay.
All right. There you go. Dick
Trickle. He's not driving. He's not driving.
Well, there was a picture of him driving with him.
Also, back in the day, it was a whole different thing. All right, there was people raced without helmets and without face masks, and people played hockey without helmets on. Like people, you guys in the 60s and 70s were wild. All right, and yes, I'm throwing you in that, you old man.
Not quite there yet.
Back there, you see stuff from then. It's just we've learned a lot of lessons from those decades. That is for sure. All right, let's get into it. AL East. Some of the big moves first for the Baltimore Orioles, who were, of course, fantastic last year. They get some big pitchers in Corbin Burnes and Craig Kimbrell. They do lose Adam Frazier and Kyle Gibson, but I think the positives far outweighed the negatives for them. Plus, their young stars got a year older, a year more of experience. That team is scary. Boston got Lucas Giolito, who I still haven't heard the full news if he's out for the year or if they're going to try to keep his UCL slightly intact to try to work it through the year, but it's not sounding good for him. Outfielder Tyler O'Neill also joined Boston. They lose Chris Sale, Justin Turner, Alex Verdugo. Nothing huge loss there unless Chris Sale all of a sudden has a resurgence with Atlanta. Yankees made the big trade for Juan Soto. They also got Alex Verdugo from Boston in a weird move, and Marcus Stroman was a late addition to the pitching staff. They lose Luis Severino, Michael King, and Wandy Peralta, some of their depth in the pitching staff, and then they lose Garrett Cole for the first 2 or 3 months of the season. So we will see how they hang out there. Still rumors that they're one of the finalists to get Jordan Montgomery, even though the season starts in 2 days. So that scares me a lot. I loved what Tampa Bay was able to do. I know we haven't heard from Eric yet today, but Ryan Pepiot was one of those young pitchers for the Dodgers I really liked. He is now with the Rays, and you know what Tampa Bay can do with young pitching, and they just make them better and better. Johnny DeLuco and Jose Caballero are both with the Rays as well. They do lose Glasnow and Margot, so we'll see what Tampa Bay can do. But I said this many times on this show. I'm done doubting Tampa Bay ever until they finally go back to the old Rays of old. Right, Tampa Bay, it's like, I don't care what's on their roster. They will find a way. Toronto made a bunch of moves, nothing of big note as far as coming in. Justin Turner, Kevin Kiermaier, but they lose Matt Chapman. Whit Merrifield left as well, so we will see what happens there. Your overall thoughts on the AL East?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the injuries already this season and already that have happened. So, like you said, Garrett Cole could be out for a substantial piece of this, and to know going into the beginning of the season that how do you hold on to a within a grasp of a playoff position this early before the season even happens, it's going to be difficult. So I think the big thing for me, I don't think Boston got any better. I think
No.
that's the really bad thing is they really didn't get any better, and neither. Honestly, I think Toronto. That one to me is the one that I'm up in the air about whether or not where they finish in this division.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Baltimore 101 wins last year, Tampa Bay at 99, and then Toronto at 89, New York at 82 and 80, and then Boston 78 and 84. We once again look at Vegas Insider. Just to continue the joke with Shohei Ohtani. As far as the over and under predictions, Vegas Insider takes all the other different gambling websites and comes up with one commutative grouping. And let's start with your defending AL East champions. The Baltimore Orioles won 101 games. I feel like they improved, but their over under is 90 and a half.
Yeah, I think it's easily doable to get over 90 and a half. Can they repeat at 100 to 105? I would love to see it, especially with the weapons, but it's going to be tough.
Denny, we're going to make you hang out for about another half hour or so, even though looking at our schedule, we'll be cutting things to get to that. But second hour, we will break down who will play in the World Series and if Baltimore is in our predictions. But yeah, I'm with you. It's over for me. Do they get 100 wins again? That's a little bit more difficult. But I do think they're the front runners to win this division again. And to do so, you have to top 91 wins. So give me Baltimore. Second place last year was the Tampa Bay Rays. They won 99 games last year. And Vegas Insider has their over under at 84 and a half. I'll say it one last time. I'm done doubting this team. I was done last year and it worked well for me. Tampa Bay, give me the over.
I think it's going to be over, but I don't think it's going to be over as much because I think it's going to be between Tampa Bay and New York again, but it boils down to that injury bug already that happens with your team, the team that you root for. But I'm like you. Until they really implode, they've made some smart decisions. So I'm going to take the over also.
We now move on to the Toronto Blue Jays. 89 wins last year, over under at 87 and a half. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. Their offense still has not reached what I felt its peak was going to be when they had all those young studs, especially in the infield. We see if Vlad finally really gets things going and becomes that top star that he always looked like he was going to be. Again, this division is extremely tough. So I'm going to take the under, but I'm not super confident with this one. To me, I think they finish above 500, but more that 85 win range, which is obviously super close to the over under, which is why I don't feel comfortable with it. But I can't take everybody to be over in the AL East. So under for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think they're right at 85. I think they're going to be close. I was the same way with you. That was the last team I put in today with over under. I think they're going to be slightly, and I put them at 80 with their wins.
80. That is fair.
There he is.
Eric is finally here. Stick around and we'll get into the World Series predictions. I want you and Denny to also chime in for those. We get to the New York Yankees again, just 2 games over 500 last year, 82 and 80. And then Vegas said over under of 93 and a half. It's too much. It's too high. I'm a Yankee fan. I want to have faith. I want to be a positive Yankee fan. Lost Cole for the first 2 months. They did not get another one of those star pitchers that I was really hoping they would get. Stroman had a fantastic spring training. Rodon has looked better this spring training than he did last year, so hopefully they can hold down the fort. The offense looks fantastic, but not Again, the Yankees just don't have the depth. They have depth in the outfield, but the infield is shaky to me. While I think that they can still make it into a wild card position, 93 is too much. Give me the under.
I'm the exact same way. The injury bug, but for me it rolls all together. Those three teams between Tampa, New York, and Toronto. I think Toronto's the bottom of that group of three, but where the injuries happen, I think that's the big thing. I sent you that. Okay, I see that in the green room. I sent that because
look at this.
You didn't plug our bad brackets for at the start of the show as we did ballpark food and all that.
That's true.
There's some upset people because we didn't have milkshakes on the
milkshakes did not make the bracket, but if I would have saw this, well, I know we didn't put specialties on the bracket, but a 16-ounce campfire milkshake. It's topped with graham crackers, marshmallows, and pieces of chocolate. Do they deliver to Lewiston? That's what I want to know. Yeah, definitely go check it out, especially Denny, who has spent a lot of time at ballparks. I got to send that link out to Alicia as well, who's been to many of those ballparks.
She is mad at you.
Ballpark foods. Why
She's mad at you? Because we talked about it in the booth on Saturday. You did not put your Wilson Banner Ranch fruit cup, but you didn't put her mac and cheese in there.
Because it's not It's not a staple elsewhere.
She said she had it at one of the places she was at back east. We talked about it, and she's like, he didn't put it on there. Oh, so
yeah,
you'll have to do some explaining on that.
Again, I used the World Series as examples of times I get things, and again, I look up other lists. I compile lists and come out with my own stuff, have some fun with the matchups, sprinkle in some rancidness in there just to have some fun. And if we get done with the show and at least one of you is mad at me, it's a successful show, I think. I think it's a positive that way. That's for sure. But I agree. It's not in a plastic cup. It does count. It just hurts its ranking. Like if they put that in a plastic cup or in a plastic helmet, the greatest ballpark food of all time, right? Right?
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah.
Let's move on to the National Football League. Let's touch on these rules real fast. We won't break them down as much as I was hoping to, but we've had some really fun discussions. And I know once we get to the awards for Major League Baseball here shortly, it's going to get even more interesting. And we still have a sports-related draft to get to, and we have a couple people hanging out and want to get their votes. And I'm tired of tying you. Tired of ties in the sports-related draft. But the hip drop tackle is now banned. However, it does seem it's more finable than penalized, is what it seems from the wording of the rule and the way I've had it explained in different videos. Obviously, they don't want you to take your the whole point of this rule is to not have people grab you around the waist and then leave their feet and then use their entire body weight to drop down on your lower body. We saw the injuries happen. We saw that with Mark Andrews late in the year.
Yep.
That's what they're trying to avoid. I think it's smart. It is a lot like the horse collar. Thank you. I was blanking on the full name, but the horse collar rule that a lot of people got mad about, but it is a safety deal. A lot of people are going to go, let's just make it flag football and stuff. If they penalize it all the time and they throw the flag on questionable stuff, then I'm going to have an issue with it. But I really feel like most tackles, they're just going to ignore, but everything will then go into review. And it's just one of those rules that they're going to make that will hopefully over years change the way people actually tackle. You want to wrap up and pull them down, not wrap up, leave your feet and become a weight.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen and read out of this is some of these players, past and present, having to figure out what the kind of tackle they're talking about. And you brought it up. Mark Andrews that video has been resurfaced so much over the last couple of days of how that tackle went down. And I forget which one of the Cincinnati Bengals that made the tackle, but it's just him kind of arcing his body. But, you get a few of the people that started to wonder, and it's kind of like the funny meme I sent you this afternoon, with the Stephen A. Smith, and it was a Seattle meme talking about them. How do you go and really defensively break down to make a tackle on a guy that makes a juke at the last minute, and you have to leave your feet? I mean, so there's a very
you're leaving your feet to try to reach somebody. This is when you have them completely wrapped up,
right,
and then try to pull them backwards where their legs can go in weird ways and stuff. And again, I really hope, and my sounding positive on this rule is this will be a finable thing, not a penalty thing. I think it's like the new rule in Major League Baseball that sounds horrible, but hopefully will change things out. And the blocking of bases now, which is a lot like the plate. And there was a bad play with the Mets in spring training when Lindor was standing in front of second. They caught a guy stealing second by 10 feet, but because Lindor put his foot in front of the bag, the runner was called safe. Looks horrible, but the whole point is to get people away from the bag so we don't have cleats into the ankles. We don't get the injuries that way. So I think this is a rule just to be preventative on things. And I don't think it's going to all of a sudden double the penalties. And I don't think it's going to make it harder to tackle. It's just they're trying to make it where they're not relying on such bad form is my belief. Tush push, though, does stay legal. So screw player safety. Also, go watch Tom Grassi's video on these NFL rules because they talk about NFL safety all the time, yet the Jets and the Giants still play on that horrible turf that destroys ACLs and Achilles. Thanks, NFL.
Well, but just finally get the ownership to put in grass in there.
Everyone would love that. Real quick, in the middle of all this talk, congratulations to Dordt. They won the women's NAIA National Championship by 3 points. And right now, Freed Hardeman with a 1-point lead over Langston, 68-67. Langston with the basketball, 30 seconds to go. And yes, Grassi is absolutely fantastic. While I watch these last 25 seconds, it's not enough time for you to try to do so. Explain the new kickoff play.
So for this, what's going to happen is you are now going to line up. You're still going to kick the ball from the 35-yard line. So now your team will be standing. I believe I saw an AFL or an XFL. They were standing at the 35, but according to the rule I saw, they will stand at the 40. Your team, the kick-off team, will stand at the 40. But there is an area that is the landing zone, which is the 20 through the end zone. That is where the play is going to happen. So you have to have 9 guys up. You can have 2 guys back in that landing zone. But I think the plus about it is, and I've heard pluses and minuses over it, especially with Shannon Sharp making his comment about he's not with it. But I like the fact that, these guys aren't going full speed. So it gives the kind of this still fair advantage of running, but you've got to be mobile and get around. But I agree 100%. A lot of these guys in the past, the Devin Hesters and those guys, made a living on burning people, getting up to speed and passing it. I think we're not going to see near as many kickoff returns with them that stacked up in that area between the 20-yard line and the 40-yard line.
I agree with this. Now you can no longer do a surprise onside kick, which is the only time you could successfully get an onside kick with the way the rules are. So it seems like they've now backtracked on that, and now you can make one side heavier than the other with onside kicks, because once again, screw player safety on those. But I actually disagree with you. I think there's going to be more returns than the last few years, because with the way the rule had been the last at least 2 or 3 years, where you could fair catch it anywhere and get the ball at the 25, the kick return game just died. So for them to be able to at least create some space with it and incentivize them actually taking the ball out, I don't like that the receiving team is so close to the defending team and you have to just wait for the ball to be caught or into the landing zone of the 20, which it's just going to cause so much havoc, because is there a referee there at the 20 that will raise his hand or drop his hand or something when it passes him at the 20? But either way, all of those defenders are going to be in a ready running position, watching in front of them for the mark or the ball or the catch. While the defending team, or the receiving team, excuse me, has to turn their body to see the mark and then turn back and try to defend. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm not a big fan of it, but we will wait and see. I know like the XFL had something very similar with this,
and it's only a 1-year trial on that too.
Yeah.
So,
and why are they shooting down the 4th and 20? I hate that as an onside kick thing too. Because you don't want the onside kick is just like you have to get the right bounce, you have to get the lucky bounce to keep your play alive. Going for 4th and 20, a high-powered offense would just keep dominating. I know you can limit how many times they would go for it. I know you can now only go for one onside kick with this rule, but
yeah. The only other thing that I have seen different versions than what I read was 40-yard line is where they can start at on the opposing side. On some of the XFL ones I saw, it was hopefully I think it was 35. So I'm kind of wanting to watch it this weekend as the new football league starts things up this week. I want to see if that's going to be how they play their things off again and see how the NFL adapts to it.
Sorry, I'm watching the funniest thing ever right now for the men's basketball championship. Once again, referees just don't understand. Freed Hardeman was up by 3. They let the plays go forever. There was so much contact for the last 25 seconds of this game. Freed Hardeman gets the ball back after a missed 3. They're running down the court to run the clock out. Langston fouls them right as the buzzer goes. Everyone celebrates. The confetti is shot off, and the referees went, no, we called foul with they just put 0.2 on the clock. So Freed Hardeman can shoot free throws up by 3. But you can't let them shoot the free throws until they clean off all of the confetti off the floor for Freed Hardeman just to throw a couple of basketballs at the rim. Whoever gets it's not going to be able to get a shot off. End the game. Just end it. Who cares about
premature confetti explosion?
No, it was it's over. This game's done. Move on. Congratulations to Freed Hardeman for being the champion. Reload the cannons. Let them go off again. If you're waiting for 20 minutes for them to clean it off, why not? It's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. And I'm so frustrated by it. We had that situation in a high school game at halftime. Oh, nope. So we're down with 0.2. What are they going to do with 0.2? Just move on. Just go, nope, never mind. We're good. We'll just clear it out. Some schedule announcements have already come out a little bit. We still don't know a lot as far as teams go and where they're going to get situated and all of this. We're still, about a month away until we get the full schedule release. Hall of Fame game has been set up, Chicago and Houston, which makes sense because they have some of the Hall of Famers in that class. It was the same with the Jets and Browns last year. Still won't watch it. Still don't care. But the big ones, the NFL is planning on 2 Christmas Day games. Why is this big? Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. So those 4 teams are going to play in a different situation on the Saturday before, which does make sense because it's the same break as a Sunday to Thursday. And then, so you're going to have a short week to Saturday and then a shorter week to Wednesday, going then into the final week of the regular season, which could cause issues for them to get those extra days to get ready. If you're the NFL, obviously there's the 2 showcase games that you're going to have. But do you want to put high caliber teams where you could really mess with the playoffs with these games on Christmas? Or is it just going to be, well, we know Carolina will be eliminated at this point, and we know Arizona will probably be eliminated. So we'll have those 2 teams play because people are just going to watch football anyways. Which way is the NFL going to go with this?
Your imagination could be whatever. I would think if I was the NFL, and unfortunately for those teams that are in a championship run or a playoff run, I guarantee that they're going to look at it maybe to be in a flex schedule or look at those schedules.
You can't flex on a Wednesday though.
I wouldn't put it past the NFL to do something silly and crazy like that to get the best team out there. But I think they look at where these ball clubs are here in the next after the trade. Some of the trades are still going on and free agency signing. I think they make a decision maybe sooner than later. I think they pick a team that is going to be in playoff contention and put them out there.
Yeah, to be very, very interesting. Again, will be about, they may announce that game or those 2 games on the road to the big schedule release. They usually will do that with the international games will come out a week or 2 before. So we'll see if the Christmas games get their own special announcement or not. As Eric just put in the comments, week 1 we'll have a Friday night game now. So you'll have Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday for week 1. The Friday game is going to be in Brazil. It will feature the Philadelphia Eagles. There is a rumor out there or a possible leak that somebody has already said that the Cleveland Browns will be the other team. It was somebody representing Cleveland that said that they would be there. Obviously, that has not been announced yet, but Philadelphia has been announced. Cleveland, we will see. But the big news, once again, because the playoff game worked so well, and it really did. I'm not saying that in a poor form, but because the playoff game went so well, this will be a Peacock exclusive game. Do you have an issue with that?
I don't, just because, I mean, I'm like you. We already have Peacock for other premium live events, and so it does not upset me. It just means, well, guess what? You're going to have maybe a couple extra people sitting at your house watching the game. I don't have an issue with this at all.
Yeah, me neither. Then there are cheaper forms than what I have for Peacock, where you can have the commercials, which you're going to have commercials for football anyways. So get it for a month, try it out. That's what I tell people all the time, and we have gotten better about doing that in our house. Where if we're not using a streaming service for a bit, we'll get rid of it. Something comes out, we'll get it for a month, and we'll focus on that streaming service for that month, and then kind of do it in a rotation. We need to do even better at it because we have too many. And that is just the world that we are in right now. But I don't have an issue with it, especially because a regular season game. The playoff game hurt a bit more, and I get that for sure. And it's not that, all right, well, we did it with the playoff game. It'll be nice. We'll do it now for a regular season game. No, they're doing it for both. But it's Amazon Prime Video that will have an exclusive playoff game this year. Probably one of the Monday games. So more exclusivity on different platforms for sure. Money rules all, right?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into our sports related draft so we can get into our Major League Baseball predictions. Again, we've tied in our last 2 weeks, so let's try not to tie this week. Maybe. You what?
I would say I win this week.
Yeah,
I still can't believe you let me have these first 2. So
Well, the second one you picked, I don't even think is top 5 in her sport.
Wow. Okay.
Period. And we'll get to it. But with Caitlin Clark really being the star of the college basketball March Madness, like men's tournament, obviously is going to get the ratings, but Caitlin Clark is 1000% the star for college basketball right now. I look back and saw we have never done this category before, at least since we started doing the head to head stuff. But let's go with the best female athlete of all time.
So for me, I think the name just says it all on what this woman did, and I think it was kind of a no brainer. I went Serena Williams.
Yes,
What she has done,
she's the number one.
yeah, she has done, both in singles and in doubles with her sister, as an ambassador for the game of tennis. For her to be ranked number one for 319 weeks. 319 weeks. That's a substantial amount of years. We're talking a huge amount. It's over 6 years at that. I think the one place that she's a little bit down compared to my second person is she had 73 career titles, but the winning percentage, 85%. I wish I had 85% win when I played tennis. It's been a totally different year. 4-time Olympic gold medalist, one in the singles, 3 in doubles. She had the Serena Slam, the Gold Slam, and what she has done for the sport and being an ambassador and that face in front of the tennis world, I think hands down has to be this young woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you come out with this, sometimes the number one pick is very obvious, and I totally get it with Serena. I went with Simone Biles, one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. 32 combined medals in the Olympics and World Championships. She's only 26 years old, so she might even be able to get one more Olympics under her belt. But it's just the fact that, she has changed the game in gymnastics. She has 3 different moves named after her. This is not anything I knew until I was looking stuff up because I don't follow gymnastics other than when the Olympics happen, and then you watch the highlights and then you forget about it for 4 years. But she has 3 different moves that are named after her. She is the first female U.S. gymnast to win 4 gold medals in a singles games. She is the only American gymnast to win a medal in every single Olympics event. Obviously, in gymnastics, you have several different competitions and that you go through, and obviously you win the all around from it. But she's been able to win a gold in every single one of those events throughout her Olympic career. So Simone Biles, greatest gymnast of all time, and there you go. That's why she's my first pick.
Yeah, so very valid, but when I grew up, it was all about Mary Lou Retton and all that. And yeah, so
Yeah, well,
yeah,
Simone
but she is
ran laps
very
around.
good, very talented. I stayed in the tennis category, and I
Yep.
went with a trendsetter, a person that was very huge into what she was doing right around the time I was born, and I'm going with Billie Jean King. Had 39 Grand Slam titles.
She was a fan of the Green Bay Packers. Sorry. That probably just cost me a vote. That was horrible of me. What am I doing? Sorry.
Yeah. So Billie Jean King, huge, another career record in 81%, almost 700 wins, 20 career titles at Wimbledon. She was a huge advocate for gender equality. At age 29, one of the biggest matches that she ever took place in was when she went up against Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes in 1973. So, and was voted Times Player of the Year. I mean, you can't say or talk to a tennis athlete or person that without her name being raised and and with her name not being brought up. So Billie
Yeah.
Jean King, my second one.
Billie, again, nothing to take away from Billie Jean King, but I would put Steffi Graf ahead of her. I'd put Martina Navratilova ahead of her. I would put Venus Williams ahead of her all time, and that's with Venus with her injuries and obviously getting shadowed by her sister Serena. So Billie Jean King's great. I don't get me wrong, and obviously the activist part of it as well has been a really big thing. But I do think she has been passed and by a few of the other women tennis players. I went back to the Olympics, and I'm going to get into this argument when you get to your second round pick. To be fair, it was between these two women as far as who I was going to go with next. But I went ahead and went with Jackie Joyner Kersee. I always talk about that weird VHS tape I got from Sports Illustrated in '92, where it has all these cool things. That's where I remember like the Christian Laettner shot and the Knicks crazy game 7 with Bulls. Jackie Joyner Kersee obviously was one of the dominators of the '92 Olympics. She ended up with 6 gold medals. Sports Illustrated magazine voted her as the best female athlete of all time. So why can't I put her on my list? Absolutely fantastic career for Jackie. And you're going to go with somebody that had far more gold medals, but she plays in a sport that's all they do is collect gold medals, and I'll get into that.
So here's why it's different there, sir. And you said 92 a couple of times. There was only one thing happening in 92 in the Olympics, and you know that. And it was all about the Dream Team and what the
It
Dream
wasn't all
Team
about
did.
it was all about the Dream Team to you because you're small-minded and you can't think outside the box.
No, I thought outside box. Here's my outside the
Carl
box.
Lewis was really big in '92. Jackie Joyner Kersee was really big in '92. It wasn't all about the Dream Team.
90% of it. For my last one, I had to go. I was back and forth because I thought about other golfers. I went Winter Olympics, thought about Winter Olympics in my head, but I went with this lady, and you said it about Simone a few minutes ago. She's only 27. She's got a chance to get another one. I'm going with Katie.
You would skip by her.
Katie Ledecky has more gold medals than any other Olympic swimmer. 7 Olympic golds, 21 golds in the World Championship.
Women's Olympic swimmer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
I'm pretty sure Michael Phelps still has.
Yeah, right. Women's Olympic swimmer.
Okay.
But the big thing, and you brought it up with Simone, they're still so young. There's still a chance that both Simone and Katie have. Do they have one more, maybe 2 more Olympics in them?
Yeah, and Ledecky is one of those people. I don't watch swimming other than the Olympics times, but you see all the interviews with her, and there was a younger swimmer that was really coming up in that sport, and Katie was just kind of the mentor there. Like she was the big sister to her, and that was really great to see as well, because she used to be that young swimmer coming up through the game. The one argument I always have when we talk about gold medals for swimmers is they race in 38 events every year, it feels like. And sometimes when you get a dominant swimmer, whether it's Katie Ledecky or Michael Phelps or whoever else is down the line, they're just that dominant in swimming, and it doesn't matter what format you put them in, they're going to beat them.
Yeah, so it's the same with the diving. I mean, you've got springboard, so many different heights, and platform, so many different heights. But if you're the dominant person in any of those, you're going to win it. And I agree 1,000% with that, what you said.
Yeah, could you imagine track and field was like, all right, we're going to have the 100 meters, but now we're going to have the 100 meters backwards, and it's going to be the same people. So it's just an interesting thing. Again, they really accumulate gold medals. Not to take away from Katie Ledecky. If I would have went Jackie Joyner, or if I would have went Katie Ledecky with my second pick, would you have gone Jackie Joyner Kersee, or could I have gotten her in the 3rd round?
I think you probably would have got her. I would have probably went with Lindsey Vonn. I really think I would have went Lindsey Vonn over Steffi Graf, but just barely over.
Mia Hamm's another really, really good one.
The name came
for
up.
Sure. There's obviously a lot. This is a very broad topic, but I was so 50-50 between Jackie Joyner Kersee and Katie Ledecky. But you do leave me with who I believe is the greatest women's basketball player of all time. It's somebody that Caitlin Clark will attempt to catch when she goes into the WNBA, and continues her career. And maybe Caitlin Clark does eventually pass her because, records are made to be broken and people are supposed to get passed as we get better and better at sports and get better athletes and all that. But Diana Taurasi, to me, redefined women's basketball. Obviously, we don't give WNBA a lot of attention. We don't give NBA a lot of attention here on the R&R Sports Report. But 5-time gold medalist, 3-time WNBA champion for Diana Taurasi. She dominated the sport. Nobody pays attention other than the small niche that watches WNBA. But just like everyone we've talked about, whether those sports get more focus on the Olympics times or not, Diana Taurasi completely changed the game for women's basketball. And to me, she's got to end up making the list, as Denny's put out a few others as well. There's some fantastic ones on here that you could definitely go through, and some that were well before my time, that were right in your teenage years. And
well, I mean, you got Annika. Some names we didn't throw out there: Annika Sorenstam, Michelle Wee, 2 big golfers, FloJo, 100% FloJo there.
Charlotte Flair. I mean, there's so many.
You could have went Danica Patrick or Shirley Muldowney.
You could not. Danica Patrick, I apologize to her. She is nowhere near this list. So there you go. Let us know who won this week's draft. 6 fantastic female athletes represented here. For Robert, he went Serena Williams, Billie Jean King, and Katie Ledecky. I went Simone Biles, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and Diana Taurasi. So let us know in the comments who came away with the win this time.
We already know Haley's given me after your comment, so Haley's given me her vote.
Well, we will see. Real quick, we got 5 minutes. Have you watched more NCAA basketball than you initially expected when we talked about it last week?
I think I have watched a total of 2 complete games, but a hit and miss here and there and there. I think I'm right on what I probably was planning on watching now that we're to the Sweet 16 and I'm going into spring break. You're coming out of spring break.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit easier for us. So, ooh.
Denny's on a fight for second. Denny's trying to pass you. What do I get bonus points if you finish third in our head-to-head battle? That'd be great. To me, I've watched just as little as I was expecting, at least paying attention to it. Luckily, with the way my computer setup is with the 2 monitors, I'll try to get work done on one side and I'll put a basketball game up on the left. I have the 2 TV set up out here because I'm a nerd, and I'll play a video game and have it off to the side, or the family will watch something and I'll usually have a game on. But I haven't really sat down and focused on very much as far as the games go. Same thing when I was up there at Harris Field watching LC baseball and calling those games. Gonzaga played, then WSU played, and I just had that on a side monitor just to kind of keep an eye on it. But there really just not been, I don't think an entire half where I sat down and went, I'm focusing on this, whether it's the men's side or the women's side. I've just not watched a lot, and it's really no surprise. And I can't even tell you how my bracket's doing. I look at it here and there. I know Purdue's still in, so my champion's still in. But
yeah, so when we were up there, you said, you were 2 boxes over from where we were at. But we had my tablet open, but we've spent more time keeping an eye on Denny Grubb. What?
They don't host the first 2 rounds at home. Me again. There's that. But the NAIA hosts the first 2 rounds. But NCAA women's, they had basketball in Spokane for the women.
Yeah, and there was all that
home games. So,
and there was that whole big issue of who was it that was in up there that anyway, that was a whole nother topic. We were
talking about the band.
Yeah, well, not the band, but that with Yale and all that. But no, there was the whole issue with the racist allegations in
gotcha.
Coeur d'Alene. I don't want to drive down that one, but
Yeah, that's
I did look today. I do have 10 of my 16 teams still in the Sweet 16 for the men's side.
Is that set, or is that just because they were already set to I don't fully pay attention. So maybe it is where the top seeds get the advantage of being able to be one of the host sites. Maybe that's one of the things. Again, you never know how they continue to change things, and so there you go. I stand corrected. I just know that Spokane hosted, but yeah, I feel like I got the win, and that makes me feel good. 2 votes for me, 1 vote for Denny, and Robert. You did finish third.
I think
and you almost got.
I think
2
you
votes.
went younger. You took the younger athletes.
What?
No, it's Dynamic.
What are you talking? Katie Ledecky is the youngest one of this group.
Right. But my other ones are the older of the group.
Jackie joined her first year. I guess she is younger than Billie Jean King, but Deanna Taurasi's older than Serena Williams. What are you talking about? But no, I guess that makes sense. I also hate for the women's bracket that the Sweet 16 is only in 2 sites. I hate that their quadrants are Albany 1 and 2, and just a complete mess. All right, let's get into it. Major League Baseball predictions. We have given you our over-unders over the last 6 weeks for each division. Denny's ready for that.
I have to complain about the calendar that is hanging in the press box right now, sir. It is a 2023 Baltimore Orioles calendar.
The 2024 season hasn't started yet. So
well, it's a 2023 calendar, so I think we need to change it. So I might have a new calendar hanging up in there on next Saturday.
Yeah, he'll throw it away. Don't worry. All right, let's get into it. Let's go National League first. I want to make Denny sweat just a little bit. You want to do that? Have some fun?
Sure.
Is there any way that Atlanta and the Dodgers do not win the East and the West?
Nope. I think they're runaways with both of those.
So I will agree there. Give the old one to a bingo winner. There you go. I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs to win the NL Central. I think is a 2-team race between the Cubs and the Cardinals. But obviously the Cubs went out, got that new manager in Craig Counsell, who already knows the NL Central really well. So give me the Cubbies to win the Central.
I'm taking the Cubbies too, and them getting and taking care of Bellinger there. I think he is going to make a huge difference. And Craig Counsell, 1,000%. I think we are totally in agreement, 1, 2, and 3 on that out of that division.
And then in no particular order for my wild cards, I think the Phillies are a lock. I think they would win the NL Central if they were there, but they just go up against one of the top 2 teams. So give me that spot. I'll say the Cardinals sneak in in a good battle with the Cubs as far as the Central goes. So I'll put them in the wild card. And the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, are the second best team in the NL West. So I'll say Phillies, Diamondbacks, Cardinals, with the Padres and Giants battling it out to try to sneak in as well. I can't really think of anyone else. I don't feel like the Mets are going to be that big of a contender. So I really think it is 5 teams battling for 3 spots.
I'm close with you. I think it's top 4. I've been back and forth, and I sat and I took St. Louis last year to be my champion, and they kind of bit me in the butt. I really do think it is Atlanta, LA, Chicago, and Philly. Those are going to be your top 4 teams coming out of this group, and I think Arizona is at least 3 or 4 steps ahead of San Francisco in there. So I think they're going to be a shoe-in, and I just have to throw St. Louis back into the mix.
So since you have me completely confused, who are your 3 wild card teams? You went back to your division winners.
Philly, St. Louis, and Arizona. Philly, St. Louis, and Arizona. But Philly is the top of that wild card spot.
I would like the Pirates to surprise. I like their offense. I'm not the biggest fan of their pitching just yet. I think they're a year or 2 out, but sometimes, as Denny says, the teams can definitely surprise and really make a splash a bit early. So we have the 6 same teams in the playoffs, so there's zero chance that's actually happening. But who is in your NLCS and who moves on to the World Series?
I'm all about Atlanta this year. Their pitching has been extremely good.
Jesus
I
Christ.
love Spencer
Sorry, breaking
Strider.
news. Breaking news. Left-handed pitcher Jordan Montgomery has agreed to a 1-year, $25 million deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
You didn't want him anyway.
No, I don't. No, I'm just saying. Once again, who is? I'm blanking on their horrible agent. He's the same agent as all these other free agents, Blake Snell and all of them. But another horrible deal where they wanted a ridiculous amount of money. Teams offered him a really good amount of money for many years, and they went, nope, we'll just take a 1-year or 2-year deal.
Scott Boras.
Yeah. Scott Boras. Yeah. It's horrible. It's a bad deal. And to do it 2 days before the regular season, I wish him well. I like Montgomery. I mean, he's a former Yankee, but oh man. Wow. Yeah. Anyways,
so for me, I love what the Atlanta is doing. So I'm taking Atlanta to defeat Chicago.
I had my 2 teams set, locked in, ready to go. And then as I was doing the rest of our show notes today, I went back and flip-flopped these 2 teams a dozen times. I think the Atlanta Braves are the better team and are going to run away with the division. I do not believe in the Los Angeles Dodgers and their postseason run. I think things will fall apart for them. Who knows if Ohtani will still be on this team come October? Who knows what's going to happen there? But what the Philadelphia Phillies have been able to do with their rotation and their pitching staff and their bullpen, I believe that they were the 3rd best team in the National League. So they'll give them the number 1 wild card spot. And once you get into the postseason, what dominates? Pitching and bullpen depth. And that's exactly what the Phillies have. And I really think that they're going to be a very dangerous team if they stay healthy come October. I had the Phillies as the NLCS champion multiple times today, but I am going to agree with you and give it to the Atlanta Braves. And we will see how I feel about that come later on this year. Let's get to the American League now. Who is your AL West champion?
I'm going Homer. I really do. I think they have made some moves to play ball with Houston. I'm picking the Mariners. I'm going Homerish on this.
I had to get a Homer sound. In fact, I just couldn't find one fast enough. I hate to do it. I hate this team. Give me the Houston Astros. We talked about it when we previewed the AL West a couple of weeks ago. Texas, yes, they won the World Series. But half of the World Series winners then did not make the playoffs the next year. They had a bit of a letdown. I feel that for the Rangers. And I just don't see Seattle up there just yet. So Houston for me. Who do you have in the AL Central?
It's going to surprise you a little bit. And I think with a little bit of a change and up there, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm taking the Twins. Give me the Twinkies.
Any reasons why?
I think the change with in management, I think Rocco Baldelli is going to be a big move.
How you feel about that?
They did do some moves, sir. They're not as exotic, but they did make some changes in the infield. I do like that. Yes, they lose Kelnick to Atlanta, but they bring back Haniger. Hopefully Haniger stays healthy. So I think it's enough to make a push against Houston.
That's fair. I disagree with it, but it's fair. For me, as far as the AL Central goes, I went back and forth. My surprise team to make the playoffs this year is your Detroit Tigers. I really like their rotation. They're very young, so this could implode in my face. Reese Olson, I think, is one of the great up and coming pitchers. They did bring in some veteran leadership in Jack Flaherty, Kenta Maeda. That can help. Casey Mize is really good. Tarek Skubal is a fantasy baseball darling right now. A lot of people think he's going to have a great year as well. The rotation has some things left to be desired, but in an AL Central where I think 83 wins is enough to win that division, I think the Tigers are going to be in it the whole way. They can make a couple moves, and with that rotation, they can sneak in and win the Central. Now for what Denny's and I guess Eric have all been waiting for. Who do you have as the AL East champion?
I am going the Boston Red Sox. Just kidding.
Lock it in. Lock it in. Verbals binding. Move on. All right. I am good. No, go ahead.
No, I think they're just too strong. I think as much as I like Tampa Bay, I think Baltimore is just on that big upswing over the last couple years. They've got the pieces. They're just putting it together. And I think this year is that year that they're going to take that extra step.
Yeah, I'm with you. As much as I would like to go Homer, as you did in your division, and say the New York Yankees, I really liked what Baltimore did. Baltimore has such a young core on their squad, and then to go out and get one of the best pitchers that were in the trade market with Corbin Burns, and also to get Craig Kimbrell in there to solidify the bullpen. Their offense is stacked. It's tough for me not to go with the Baltimore Orioles to win the AL East. My 3 wild cards, though, I told you I am never, ever doubting the Tampa Bay Rays until they go back to losing 100 games. So Tampa Bay is in my wild card. I will take the New York Yankees to get into the wild card. And then it really just comes down to Toronto, Texas, Seattle for me. I don't think anyone in the Central is going to compete. Maybe Minnesota, with me having Detroit sneak in there. But my third team will be your Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, for me, I think the team that is kind of the bubble, but we've hit it on a couple of times tonight. I think your team has to. How do they stay
healthy?
Period. How do they? And how do they go back? So that's the biggest thing. I think my bubble team that just misses is Detroit. So I'm going to go Houston, Tampa, and New York as my wild cards teams, with Detroit being that team that could push in there.
So we both don't have the defending World Series champions in our playoffs. Danny, Eric, let me know your guys' picks real quick. I'm very curious about that as well. As far as the ALCS, it's been since 2009 since the Yankees have been in the World Series. 15 years. It's been so long. As a Yankees fan who grew up in the 90s, just being spoiled. Absolutely. The only team that's ever spoiled me in my life. Like everyone that makes fun of me about, oh, you just pick the Yankees because they win. I'm a Jets and a Knicks fan. Let me have something. But it's been since 2009. I just don't want Houston in the ALCS. As long as Houston's not there, I don't care. But I'll take Baltimore over my Yankees in the ALCS.
I am going to take Baltimore in there too. I'm going to say this. I know Denny just said it. They didn't make a lot of moves, but I'm going to have Baltimore up beating my Seattle Mariners. Yes, they have done some changes. They have Josh Rojas in there now. Mitch Garver.
Game changer.
Mitch Garver, I think Mitch Garver is going to get more play time behind the plate than Cal Raleigh will this year. So I think that's going to be Reyes is going to, I think, make a difference in the infield. So I still have Baltimore and Seattle. I think Baltimore will beat Seattle in the ALCS.
I want to change my pick because I hate that we both have Baltimore and Atlanta in the World Series. But Denny already went Baltimore, Philly, so I'd be taking his. He has Baltimore and Atlanta as well. Why are we all going with the same teams? I hate this so much because it's going to go insane. There's always that sneaky team that gets in there. I do think it's the Phillies that are the sneaky team, but as much as I would love to see Denny be very, very excited come October and Baltimore winning the World Series, I will take Atlanta as my World Series champion.
As much as I love the pitching in Atlanta, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going with the youth of Baltimore. So give me Baltimore defeating the Braves.
Well, I still win 2-1, so that's fine. But I knew when I went against Baltimore, if Denny was around, that I was not going to get a vote. That's why we had to get the draft in first. But still backfired on me at the end. Let's rapid fire these because we got 15 minutes left in the show. But your MLB awards. Oh yeah,
listen.
Have you
seen
seen the video of the
birds? I shared it. It is. I've seen a couple different videos. Very brutal. Very kind of.
That is, that is a good argument. The disaster clause in the sports is a real thing. Man, that's going to be an interesting thing. All right, AL Manager of the Year. I already said Detroit was my surprise team. If you're a surprise team, you get Manager of the Year. Give me AJ Hinch, that son of a.
I'm going with the Twins. I think they're the team that comes out of the Central, and so I go Rocco Baldelli there.
NL Manager of the Year, we both go with Craig Counsell for the Chicago Cubs. You're not going to give it to the Dodgers. You're not going to give it to the Braves unless they go out and win 120 games or 7. Oh, jeez. Let's not go there. Who's your AL Rookie of the Year?
I think we were both back. I was back and forth between this one, but I'm going to end up going Wyatt Langford. What he showed playing in Florida, I think he is just going to be a stud for this team in Texas.
Yeah, I was bouncing back and forth. I'm pulling back up the odds when I was looking through things. Jackson Holiday obviously is a really interesting one. Evan Carter could be really, really good, but I am also going with Wyatt Langford.
And the only reason I did not go Jackson Holiday is he is starting back down in the minors, correct?
I don't know if they obviously have had to have made that decision now, but
because I want to say I saw something.
But they did demote. He will start in the minors, but plenty of time. I can't go Dominguez for the Yankees because he is out till like the All-Star break. Yeah, minors for Holiday. Dominguez coming off of his injury, he's missing half the year. I did draft Dominguez again to stash on my IL because I really like that kid. But I don't think he's going to put in the time. Everything I'm hearing about this Wyatt Langford guy for Texas is phenomenal. Like he's supposed to be this offensive powerhouse, but for a team that I don't think is going to make the playoffs. So we will see how all of that goes. NL Rookie of the Year, give me Jackson Merrill for San Diego. He's already got 2 games in. I think he got 2 hits in the second game when the Padres and Dodgers played out there in South Korea. I think the Padres do take a step forward. They're going to be in the playoff race. A lot of that has to do with some of the young talent. And yes, Soto's gone, but you're in a lineup with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to help your numbers. So give me Merrill.
I'm going the other guy that the Dodgers signed. I'm going with Yamamoto. I think he is going to really set up this pitching staff and could be that heartbeat. I think, it's going to be harder as he's not out there every day to win this award, but I think he's going to be impressive enough that he's going to get some looks.
Yamamoto is my number 1 guy. I wanted the Yankees to sign. He did not, so he's dead to me. Let's go AL Cy Young Award winner. And just to make Denny continue to smile, he said it in a message earlier as well. Let me scroll up. Where did it go? We've talked so much. Maybe I've already passed it because I don't know how to read, people. Yeah, I've already lost it. It's gone to me. But Corbin Burns for Baltimore is my Cy Young winner.
Yeah, 1,000%. That is where I'm going to be. Is with Corbin Burns. So I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I that was such a good trade for the Orioles. It's just fantastic. NL Cy Young winner to me. I really think he takes a big step forward. I believe he is second right now in the Cy Young odds. But Zach Wheeler for the Phillies is going to have a phenomenal year, and he would be the reason I think the Phillies make it to the World Series if they do.
For me, I'm going to go Strider. Spencer Strider has had a great spring training. I think he is just going to keep developing, and he's going to be that workhorse for the Atlanta Braves. So give it to Strider.
How about your National League MVP? Where are you going?
National League, I was back and forth, but you said it a minute ago. I think the San Diego Padres take a step forward. Give it to Fernando Tatis. I think he is going to be that main guy in that team and the workhorse for the team if he stays healthy.
Yes, that is, I mean, obviously that's a caveat for everybody,
but more
Tatis,
for this guy.
Yeah, Tatis has had his history for sure. For me, I am locked in on this guy. I think he will have a breakout. Well, not break. He's already a star, but he's going to have his best year of his career. Let me say that. Mookie Betts for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's already homered. He already had 6 RBIs in the second game of the year. He had a stolen base, got called back as the catcher reared back too far and hit the umpire in the face. He is going to put up some insane numbers with Ohtani batting after him. That lineup is going to be so fun to watch as long as Ohtani's available to play. I made a fantastic trade in my fantasy baseball draft that nobody wants to hear about, but I am still all smiles for that trade because I think Mookie Betts is going to light it up. All right. Final one, American League MVP. Before we go, Denny, go ahead and put your Gunnar Henderson. Maybe Adley Rutschman.
I was between Rutschman and I'm going homerish. Give me J-Rod. Julio. For me, I'd taken Julio Rodriguez as the MVP.
I can't believe you went homer.
I did.
Who goes homer on the AL MVP? Give me Juan Soto, baby. Join the Yankees, the savior of the Yankees. It's going to be so good. Once again, like Mookie Betts, you put him in, I mean, he was already in a sick lineup anyways with the Padres, but you put him in front of Aaron Judge. Like, you talk about protection. And he plays 81 games at Yankee Stadium where everyone jokes that right field is right behind second base. For a left-handed hitter, that is money.
What is it? 314?
314 to the line. Yeah. But but the thing with Yankee Stadium, it stays close to that 3. It doesn't jout out like the Red Sox where they're around the 314 mark for the pesky pole. Theirs shoots out and makes it deeper in right field. It stays pretty shallow in right field for a bit, and then it has a very deep right center out there for Yankee Stadium. But it's perfect for Juan Soto's swing. Obviously, he's very patient at the plate. Say it a lot. If the Yankees lineup can stay healthy, it's one of the best lineups in the league. It just never stays healthy. I love a non-concussed Anthony Rizzo on this team. Stanton hit 3 home runs in a spring training game this year. I don't think any of them have dropped yet. I want it. It's like 1,300 feet between those 3 home runs. It was insane what he did. They can just stay healthy. The offense will be really, really good. I'm just worried about the pitching. So there you go. We all went homer as far as the AL MVP. We'll see how that all goes. Thursday is opening day. I've already got through my T-Mobile stuff. I have my MLB at bat. I am ready to go. And next week we will talk all about baseball. It's going to be so much fun.
I hit mine. I hit mine today at 10 a.m. I put my T-Mobile stuff in to watch. Now, just to figure out how we can watch my Seattle Mariners. That's what I got to work with.
I
They're
don't have to.
still fighting with Dish Network.
I
So
love that it's been years
it's
now,
3.
and Root has
Well,
still been an
yeah.
issue.
Yep.
All right. Aussie Rules Football Week 2 happened for some teams. Hawthorne showed up in the third quarter, kind of. I looked at the score of that game. I was at work. I went, do I want to go and turn this game on? I was working the cage at Lancers, and I was roaming around, and oh, it's that time. Hawthorne has started, and they were down 26-1. So I did not turn it on. 100 Baltimore's going to go 163-0. They're going to go play for another team 1 week for 1 day just to have a lot of fun. They're going to get rewarded a win for having the entire all-star team, and they'll get the win there. But Hawthorne absolutely stunk, and it kind of just soured me on Aussie Rules Football this week, so I didn't really watch a lot. They lost 93-38. I didn't even see that final score. I just saw the score at the beginning. But did you watch anything this week?
Yeah, I watched Geelong and Adelaide, which was one of the games of the week. Geelong looked really good, 96-77. But the other game I got to watch a little bit of, and I was very impressed with Port Adelaide, was the Port Adelaide-Richmond game. Richmond came in, they were leading. Third quarter was totally different for Port Adelaide. So it's going to be interesting for that team this year. So I'm looking forward to it. But only 3 games on this week that is going to be.
It's not only, it's always 3.
It's always 3. But I'm interested to see how Port Adelaide plays against Melbourne on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, 1:30 a.m. So late into the Friday night hours. Early Saturday. You get Brisbane, Collingwood early on a Thursday morning. And then Saturday night, 10 p.m. on FS2, Richmond and Sydney. And then also next week, we will talk about how Geelong beat Hawthorn by 70. We will talk about. They play Sunday, 9:20 p.m. Pacific time. I have zero hope in that. The wooden spoon is already starting to look feasible for my Hawks, and I absolutely hate it. Damon made the cut. He finished finished in the top 50. So congratulations to him. I did finally watch that episode with Joel Damon and Gino. A lot more somber and a lot more serious of tone. And I totally get. I've obviously not lived what he's living through, but to go through struggles with the spotlight on you because of the Netflix stuff and having the baby on top of it. Definitely go watch that episode. It was really, really good. NASCAR was at the Circuit of the Americas. William Byron dominated that race. I had it on in the background for a bit, never really got into it. Kyle Busch does confront Christopher Bell at the end of it, as Christopher Bell kept dive bombing people. I did see that highlight. It was just dumb. Christopher Bell made mistakes. I heard his interview on Sunday where he said I have to go back and watch it. I'm sure when he watched it, he went, "Sorry, Kyle." It was just bad by him.
A lot of the spots where you saw him throughout the day diving in, and so, but that's what you get at the Circuits of America, though, in Austin. I mean, you look at the out of bounds of where they can drive, where they can't drive, and the other thing about that race that I was intrigued about was how it was not a ton of caution. I think there was only 1 caution the entire race.
That's road course racing. They'll do section. They'll do cautions in sections, and they won't pull everybody off. It's like F1. If you ever watch that, they'll have little caution areas, but they won't bring out the safety car unless a car just explodes on the track. Speaking of F1, Max Verstappen, who's been dominating for the last several years, had an engine issue early on in that race. So he actually did. He finally, I want to say it was like an 8 race winning streak for Max Verstappen, ended with him finishing in dead last in Australia. So there you go, more F1 stuff. I get into some F1, but again, it's just rich boys getting to play and the rich win, and it's not an even playing field by any means. But they have some cool races, and some of the tracks they go to are just absolutely insane. So that's it. That is our show here on the R&R Sports Report. I think I really, really enjoyed this episode. We had a lot of great discussions. We had a lot of fun with Denny and Eric and Haley in the comments. Again, I want to shout out Jeremiah Wynot, Case Wynot's dad, for giving us that news about just how many options they have. Obviously, not giving details as the family is working through all of that. And no matter what decision that they end up making, I wish them the absolute best on wherever he ends up going.
Mhm.
Obviously, we will talk about it once that decision does get made. We came out with 16 topics today, and I think I skipped 4 of them as we were working our way through the show notes, and that's exactly how it should go. A lot of great dialogue, a lot of fun getting ready for the baseball season. Go check out Bad Brackets. Robert Hagan and Eric Watkins were 2 of the guests on the latest one for the classic Ballpark Foods. Just search Bad Brackets on YouTube. Go give that a like, go subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the bracket itself. What the 3 contestants, it was what Robert, Eric, and Sean were on that episode, and just let us know your overall thoughts or do what Robert does and take that bracket and go take it to your job and find out what other people say there.
Which will be happening Thursday. So I'll be sharing it out Thursday with the bracket. So
we will have a lot of fun for that one. Best WrestleManias is next week, followed by greatest golf courses in the world, which I don't know how well we're going to be able to discuss that, but we're going to make it work. And some other sporty stuff down the line. So a lot of sports get represented on Bad Brackets. But thank you so much for hanging out with us on episode 176 of the R&R Sports Report. We will be back on Tuesday for another normal edition. Hopefully we'll throw a guest in here. Maybe we'll get something in there. But just so much news happened over the weekend that I didn't even reach out to anybody to see if they wanted to hop on, because I knew this was going to be a conversation heavy episode. And I appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. But that'll do it. That's Robert. I'm Randy. We are the R&R Sports Report. And until next Tuesday, we are out.